Okay, my YouTube friends, we're going to move a little bit forward from the last video and into the 60s and a little bit beyond that with this gentleman, Bill Seno, who was champion bodybuilder, power lifter, and Olympic lifter, all in similar time frame. There he is, and quite a physique, as you can see. And unfortunately, my muscular development group didn't start till slightly after that, but I was at least able to find some of the stuff from that, and we put it in the video. Um, so this is a quote from Louie Simmons talking about how he learned some stuff from Bill Seno, who had the back in those days, late 60s, had the record of 435 in the bench at 198, which doesn't seem like a lot now, but in 67 it was. And there's Louie, and you can see he was dedicated to training. Here he is benching with a cast on. So not much stopped Louie, and he had multiple operations over the course of his life. Unfortunately, we lost him a little while back. So one of the big things about Bill is he defeated Sergio Oliva not once but twice in the most muscular title in the 1964 Mr. America contest, and in another one. He also set an IPF bench record that stood for 24 years, with was like 587 and a half. There he is with it's actually Val Vasily on the right side of the picture, Bill in the middle, and that's Sergio on the other side. Now this is again, as we talk about, the probably before Sergio really started doing drugs hard. And there they are again. There's Bill with the first. This is for most muscular, not for the contest itself, which I think Bill came in like fifth in that contest. Um, Now it talks about him having been natty up until like 69. And everybody seems to, every time I say something like this about one of these guys, like, no, they're not natty. Well, this coming from his training partner, he insists that he really didn't do anything until later. Now, if you talk about you can't get that level of musculature without drugs, these guys are well before drugs, and these guys have some pretty outstanding physiques and just ripped to the gills. Now, obviously, not as massive as the later bodybuilders would be, but certainly you could achieve really good muscularity without drugs. I mean, look at this guy, and this is like early 1900s, so there's no way you could accuse these guys of taking anything. Okay, and look how ripped they are. Again, not huge, but really ripped. Um, so Olympic lifting, powerlifting, and bodybuilding. He was a high school teacher. And one other notable thing about Bill is that he actually coached Ed Cohn to the levels that we all know that he got to, which is probably a lot of people don't know that about. I didn't know that about Bill, but there he is, and this is. He did eventually move up to the 220s and the 242s, and yeah, at that point he was taking stuff when he got up to those levels. Okay, so nobody disputes that. And in those days, they used to have bodybuilding contests. The AAU did bodybuilding contests along with lifting contests, so on the same day, which was interesting. So there at Mr. Chicago contest, he does a raw 461, then he does 578, and he does. It's all listed there. When we go back and look, there's another. His physique reminds me kind of Chuck Sipes. Um, Really outstanding upper body. His legs aren't bad, but not quite as ripped as his upper body is. Um, and here this is just talking about kind of his background. Had grew up in a kind of tough neighborhood and got kicked out of the house a little bit early. Was again played high school sports and played some football, and then as everybody that plays football does weight training, he got more interested in the weight training than the football. Now, this is from the 1964 Mr. America. It was actually a short video I was able to find, and just took a couple pics from it. Not great lighting there. You couldn't see how ripped his back was in that picture very well, but he had quite the physique in the '60s and beyond. Um, and even though he had a real life, he had a job, he had a young daughter, he still was very determined and trained very hard. And we're going to go into his full routine, and you'll see that's Ed at the top, which doing just just doing showing the form for the squat and the power squat. You can see where it's down on his back a little bit, and then that's actually Bill at the bottom there squatting. And then he would do occasional squat lockouts and like bench squats and that kind of thing, and leg extensions. So it's upper body day, and this is just when he was doing the full routine, kind of a generic routine here. 6 sets of 8 on the bench, but then we'll go into a more in-depth bench routine. There he is doing and this is later on, doing rack squats. You can see he's got the pin at like maybe a half squat or something like that. So he did like to use those. He did have quite a master's career going on even into the '80s. And there he is doing, this is one of the things he recommends for the bench press routine is doing behind the necks. And he acknowledges that not everybody can do these. And some people, it bothers your shoulders. Talks about here optimizing your elbow position for your body type. And, for him, he felt that the elbows in close to the body was the best for him with more of a moderate grip. Even though he talks about training wide grip bench presses a lot, which again, that's Marvin Eder did that a lot too. But he didn't do that in competition. And with the French presses, also another tricep favorite for Marv Eder. Here again, you see a young Ed Cohn doing them, and didn't do a whole lot of other tricep work really. This is what they called the Rep Fest, the one site where Plague of Strength, I think, is where this stuff came from. But it's all coming from either his book, Push to Power, which we'll see later on in the video, or that 1964 August Muscular Development had some of his routine stuff. Wide grip holds, that's again with the holds, that's another thing that Marv did. It's another thing that the original West Side Barbell Club guys did, and just felt like it really adds to the middle part of the bench press, as he talks about. Ultra wide grip bench press is 6 times 8 to 10, and to failure on each set with the same bar weight. Man, to failure on all that many sets is a lot of work. Ultra wide grip bench press on the next block was a little bit different. He would typically train the bench press and everything else for that twice a week. Now, we have only a few covers for him. This one is from Health and Strength, which is obviously the British magazine. And he talks about that this routine evolved out of just following his body and experimenting. And goes a little bit lighter on one of the days than the other. And maybe going up to a set of 15 instead of a set of 10. And using a little bit lighter weights. There he is actually doing a heavy bench there. The text isn't that good, but you can see that's a pretty good amount of weight there, 4 or something. That was one of his records. And again, the one record held for a really long time. So here's the light day where it talks up to working up to 90% of your most recent max, and then doing a set of 6 to 8 and then lightening up and doing 10 to 12, lightening up and doing 15, using a crazy close grip with hands. I think it was like 26 inches apart. There he is on Ironman cover. and also from '64, I believe. Um, Upper body has the size there. It doesn't look quite as ripped. It's probably not in a contest phase. Um, and again, it talks about he did these things. He didn't really follow any strict kind of a diet. He didn't write down his routine. Um, and these are some of the things he accomplished with the Olympics and Mr. Illinois, Mr. Chicago. Didn't win any of the Mr. Americas, but he did win most muscular in a couple of them. And there he is again. This is from the '64 Mr. America contest. You can see he looks pretty good there, certainly for that era. Now, move into his book, and we already kind of covered the routine, so we're just going to cover like with the pushing for power, his kind of general attitude about lifting and differences between bodybuilding and powerlifting and stuff. There's the book, which I'm sure you could probably find on Amazon or eBay, I would guess, unless it's out of print. But again, you can find excerpts from the book on the Diddlo blog, which is where I got some of my stuff here. He talks about the difference between having a pump, which is pretty much a bodybuilder thing, and Vince Gironda, that was like everything he was about, is getting a pump. When you're powerlifting and you're looking for max singles, you're not really looking for a pump, as it says at the bottom there. Power trainer does not work for a pump. There's an older Bill, and they're doing traps, which is interestingly part of his like upper body bench routine. And the text is a little small, but you can read it. And he talks about how a lot of guys will warm up way too much, especially like for a contest. And I've seen people do that where and they'll work up to like whatever their opening lift is going to be, and he describes even somebody doing a double with what they're going to open with in the bench, which is kind of silly. Now this is Bill's early training partner, Terry Strand, and he's the one that insists that Bill did not use any drugs up through at least the late '60s. And again, people dispute that, and there's not really much way of absolutely proving it, but I think it was certainly possible. Talks about push-ups and how most people in athletics do a lot of push-ups. And what is the bench press? It's kind of an upside-down push-up. Now, this is an older Iron Man magazine, or a newer one actually, and that's him on the cover at 75 years of age. So this was a birthday edition, and you can see he's still in really good shape, which is another thing that leads me to believe that he didn't do drugs for all the decades that he trained, or not so heavy, because just the fact that he's still in that kind of shape at 75 is a pretty good indication of that, at least in my book. And he talks about it's kind of easier to get bigger squats and deadlifts than it is bench, but he worked on all three, and he had a pretty solid total. He's certainly no slouch as an overall powerlifter. There's another shot from the '64 Mr. America, and again, you could almost mistake him for Chuck Sipes there. And he says when he began lifting at the age of 20, which is kind of late, honestly, he was able to do 240 for 5 and 280 for 1, and then 300 pounds came within a month. So, obviously the guy had genetic gifts, because that's beyond what most people could do, especially early on. Talks about his days in college and high school. Again, he's talking about spacing your warm-ups properly and saving yourself really for the lifts on the platform. Now these are the links at the Diddlo blog to. There's actually 5 excerpts from his book, The Pushing for Power, that we showed earlier. Um, like I say here. So I haven't read the book, honestly, but I have read all of those, at least most of the those excerpts on the Diddler blog, which again is a really good source. There's the thing again. Thanks for watching. That's about it for Bill. Actually, this video was a request from one of our subscribers, and if anybody else has any, I'm willing to listen. I thought this was a good guy to cover. So that's about it. And thanks again for watching. Thanks for subscribing. And I'm out. Catch you next.